I have the pepperoni pizza, the gallon of chocolate ice cream, and my giant fluffy beanbag chair. I am completely ready to move into the space van.
Ziggy, what are you doing? You can't take a beanbag chair to space.
Why not? A robot with 2 digital eyes needs to be comfortable when looking at the stars. Plus, if I get hungry, I have 50 slices of pizza. Ta-da!
That is a very tasty packing list, Ziggy. But living on a spaceship is very different from living on Earth.
That is exactly what I was wondering. Since the Artemis 2 astronauts just got back this week, it made me think. How did they actually eat, sleep, and go to the bathroom during their trip?
That is a brilliant question, Emma. Let's blast off and find out.
Booting system, curiosity, on, logic, on, chicken dance protocol, stuck on. Book, God!
Ziggy, wrong button. Stop the clucking.
Hoot hoot! I suppose we're doing science and dancing today. Welcome to STEM with Dr. Owl. Here we explore how the world works.
With curiosity.
Protocol 404. If this show is fun, tell a friend. If it's not, it must be a software bug. Literally, there is a ladybug on my enter key.
Welcome back, explorers. If you are just joining our space adventure today, let's catch you up.
For anyone who missed our last episode, we are talking about the amazing Artemis 2 mission. It was a giant practice run where astronauts flew all the way around the moon and came safely back to Earth.
Spot on, Emma. And they made that incredible journey inside a very special spacecraft called Orion. Think of Orion like a high-tech camper van flying through the stars. And that brings us right to your question. How do they live in that space van?
Well, in space, everything floats, right?
Exactly. We call that microgravity. Let's break that big word down. Micro means very small, and gravity is the invisible pull that keeps our feet on the ground. So microgravity means there is almost zero pull, making everything float.
That sounds amazing! But wait, what happens if you sneeze in microgravity? Do you fly backward?
You actually could push yourself backward a tiny bit. That is why astronauts have to be very careful with every movement they make.
Achoo beep. Whoa, I am flying backward. Just kidding. My caterpillar tracks are way too heavy. But what about my pizza? Can I eat it while floating?
That brings us to our first trivia question. If Ziggy brought a crusty, crumbly pizza to space, what would happen to the crumbs? A. They fall to the floor. B. They float everywhere and get stuck in the machines. Or C. Space mice eat them.
There is no gravity to pull them down. So it has to be B. They float everywhere.
Correct, Emma. Floating crumbs are actually very dangerous because they can get sucked into the ship's computers and break them. Astronauts eat special food that sticks together, and they drink water from pouches with a straw so it doesn't spill.
Wow. But if everything floats, how do they sleep? Do they just bump into the ceiling all night?
Time for trivia question number 2. How do astronauts sleep on the Orion spacecraft? A. In floating beanbag chairs. B. Tied to the wall in sleeping bags. Or C. They don't sleep at all.
I vote for A. I brought my beanbag. It is perfectly squishy.
Astronauts need to sleep, so it can't be C. I think it is B. Dr. Owl. They tie themselves up.
Correct again. They strap their sleeping bags directly to the walls so they don't float around and bump their heads.
Tying myself to a wall sounds unsquishy. What about brushing my shiny metal teeth? Or going to the bathroom?
Yeah. How do you go to the bathroom when your pee might float away?
It is a very messy thought. The space toilet acts a lot like a vacuum cleaner. It uses suction, pulling the air down, to make sure everything goes exactly where it is supposed to.
A vacuum toilet. That is super clever.
It is. But living in space isn't just about floating fun and clever toilets. Space is actually very dangerous. There is no air to breathe. It is freezing cold, and there is something called radiation.
Radiation? What is that?
Radiation is invisible energy from the sun and stars. On Earth, our planet protects us from it like a giant invisible shield. But out in space, astronauts need their spacesuits to act as their personal shields against the cold, the lack of air, and that dangerous radiation.
So the suit is like superhero armor.
I am Ziggy, wearing my armor. Wait, I am already made of metal. Am I a spacesuit?
You are certainly a very sturdy robot, Ziggy. But the Artemis 2 astronauts had to be extremely brave. At one point on their trip around the moon, the Orion spacecraft flew all the way behind it. This is called the far side of the moon.
The far side? Could they see Earth from there?
No, Emma. In fact, the giant rocky moon completely blocked their radio signals. For a little while, NASA could not talk to them at all. They were the farthest humans have ever been from our home, completely on their own in the dark.
That sounds so scary. But they made it back out to the light, right?
They absolutely did! The radio crackled back to life, and the whole control room on Earth cheered.
Hooray! I would have been so lonely without my radio.
I am so glad they had each other on the ship. They learned so much just by practicing living out there.
They certainly did. And all of this practice is leading to something even bigger. Next time, in our final Artemis episode, we will talk about why we are going to the moon so we can eventually travel to Mars.
Mars, the red planet! I can't wait!
Thank you for joining our space adventure today, explorers. Keep asking questions and looking at the stars.
Bye, everyone!
Science-tastic. Must test space bathroom invention.
Ziggy, why are you trying to sit on the vacuum cleaner hose?
I am practicing suction-based seating. Uh-oh. It has attached to my bottom plate. I am stuck.
I will go get the toolbox, Ziggy. And that brings today's STEM adventure to a close. Remember, the world is full of wonders if you just know where to look.
Thanks for exploring with us. Don't forget to keep asking why.
Preparing shutdown sequence. Deleting. Browsing history. Deleting. Emma's math homework.
Ziggy, no! Don't delete that!
Just kidding. Robot humor. Curiosity stays on battery level 1%. Oh, almost forgot. If you have a question, leave it in the comments. My inbox is lonelier than a robot in a rainstorm.